What's going on, guys? Welcome to Fantasy Sports Now. Today we're doing the Colzer Report Week 7, and man, is it messy out there. It is gross. So we're just going to jump right into it because all battles. There's no graduates this week. There's no clear winners this week. It is messy, but messy can be good if you're desperate for saves or if you're desperate for guys because clear winners will emerge eventually. Jumping right into the content like we always do, and if you like that, hit the sub button. No crazy intros. Let's go. Battles, San Francisco. All of a sudden, Tyler Rogers kind of comes out of the woodwork and they start giving him save opportunities. Jake McGee has been okay. You can see his kind of elevated ERA. Obviously, it's not all based on ERA, but he has had a lot of saves. He just hasn't blown a lot of them. And I think that San Francisco has kind of realized that and said, you know what? No, we're actually going to go with Tyler Rogers, who has been absolute domination. So, probably a good call for them. And it seems like it's a little bit of a changing of the guard, which is crazy because usually when you have a guy with 11 saves this early in the season, you're like, nope, we're sticking with him. But maybe a smart play here, and does, like I said, seem like a full changing of the guards because Tyler Rogers has gotten all of the opportunity, and McGee has been coming in the eighth inning over the last week here. So Tyler Rogers is the guy to own there in San Francisco, and they continue to win ball games. Seattle, oh boy, Seattle's an absolute mess right now. Montero did not get a save opportunity this week. Graveman did get a save opportunity and locked it down. As you can see, he hasn't given up a run all year. I suspect that I should flip these two, and Graveman should really be on the top, and Montero should be on the bottom here. I think Graveman's going to get to the work. They just haven't had opportunity, which is unfortunate because they were playing Detroit this week, got no hit and all that fun stuff. But it's going to happen eventually, and I think Graveman's going to be the guy to own, and Montero's going to kind of fall from the wayside here. Next one, we go to Arizona. We've seen these two guys a few times on this channel. Christian had a bad outing. He didn't blow a save, but he had one kind of really bad outing this past week, while Soria had two really good outings this week. So, what seemed like Christian kind of taking over and Soria was going to get the eighth, like they were doing the week prior, all of a sudden it's not so clear here. Christian might not have such a stranglehold on there. I almost put him as a clear leader, but not so fast, not anymore. Both ERAs, again, it's not all based on ERA, but ERAs both are inflated, both don't look great. However, this is more of a mess than it is a battle, I think, at this point. It's tightened since last week. Detroit, we actually have something new to talk about in Detroit, which is awesome. It was the battle between Soto and Garcia, and nothing really changed. Soto kind of was taking the spot, and he was doing okay with it. He was doing fine for the most part. No blown saves. He's getting some wins in there. He's pitching like I kind of expected him to, which is good. All of a sudden, however, Michael Fulmer comes out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere. If you're from Detroit, he was kind of a long-time prospect, and he was hurt, and he kept getting hurt. He was really good, and he was hurt. All of a sudden, though, he's back and in a role that really seems to suit him, and it's probably best for his career and his arm. All of a sudden, he's racking up saves in Detroit, and he's looked darn good doing it. So right now, I think that changing of the guard. I've said it like 4 times, but I think Fulmer, they're going to go with him until he can't do it. Soto has been good enough, but I think Fulmer has been more dominant. And I think that's what they need in the ninth, and I think that that's where they're going to head, and that's where they've had. He's had 3 saves this month, and that's quite a bit for Detroit. So I like Fulmer. If you're desperate for saves, I think Fulmer is going to be the guy. Got to do these. Got to talk about Cleveland. Nick Wickren, again, I kept him on here again for some reason. He's out of the picture, guys. He's out. What's interesting about this was Emmanuel Clay seemed like the clear guy taking the ninth when they were both available. All of a sudden, the last 2 days, Karinchak has come in and gotten the saves. So they are playing with our minds, and that is not good for fantasy, or it can be good for fantasy if you're desperate and you need, to just throw flyers for saves. Obviously, most people probably kept on to Karinchak. I personally cut him, despite the fact that he is absolutely dominating. I mean, look at the strikeouts, guys. It's crazy. The amount of strikeouts that he's got versus innings. He's given up 1 run all year. He's absolute domination, but they're not giving him the ball in the ninth. Well, all of a sudden, now they are. So it's interesting, and it's not good if you picked up Clace, and it's good if you kept Karinchak. But boy, what a mess, absolute mess. One that is a little less messy than it was prior. I think Stallmont is. We've been talking about him for weeks now. He is clearly getting the opportunity, and he is clearly running away with this one. He's just looked great. He's had the last two opportunities, and he's been shut down relief pitching. Holland is kind of sailing off into the sun for me, and I honestly, of all the people on this list today, Stallmount is probably the most likely to go on to the clear leaders coming up next. So he's available, honestly, in like 20% of leagues he's owned. So this is a good guy to have. Kansas City just hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities the last few weeks. Battle in Minnesota gets more interesting. I think Colome is pretty much out of the picture for the most part, though he has done better out of the high leverage kind of role. So he might kind of bring himself back in eventually. It seemed like Taylor Rogers was going to run away with the job, and he kind of has to a degree. He's pitched well. I guess that's kind of the key takeaway. He has pitched well, but all of a sudden they gave Robles an opportunity, and he slammed the door shut with it. And that was the most recent save opportunity. So all of a sudden, what felt like Rogers is going to run away doesn't feel like that anymore. Obviously, Rogers is still the guy to own, and that's the guy that I would be picking up. But if you're desperate, Robles could maybe slide in here. Maybe this is a battle. Maybe this is not a clear winner. Because Taylor Rogers is another guy that I would have made a clear kind of leader, but not so fast. Let's see what happens there. Toronto, again, can't do these without talking about Toronto. Romano has been closing the door, shutting it down. Hasn't really had any opportunity for a save. But Dolis is back, and they were using him much earlier than Romano. So I fully expect Romano finally, maybe I mean it this time, to actually take the ninth when it's available to them. So that's what I expect, because he has finally started to slow down and he looks better. I don't know if he's nervous at the beginning of the year. He's a young guy, so I don't know what's going on, but I think he's fine. Another interesting one here with Oakland. Last week we talked about Dykman basically taking back the spot, and I think we jinxed him because he blew his last two save opportunities. And all of a sudden it's like, oh great, well, we thought we had Dykman kind of taking this back, and maybe Dykman was going to be the guy who takes over Trevino. It's just a mess now, because who do you go with if you're Oakland? Dykman's just blown his last two saves. Trevino's look good. It's like every other week, they flip flop. Trevino doesn't have a good start, and Dykman looks great, and then Dykman looks horrible, and Trevino looks good. So if there is a committee, this is it. Like a true, full-on, full-blown committee. Their stats are essentially the exact same in every way, shape, and form as well. Some of that is Trevino has gotten a little bit worse, and Dykman's gotten a little bit better. But boy, what an absolute mess! I'm just steering clear of the whole thing, honestly. Speaking of a little bit of a mess here, Tampa Bay, Diego Castillo comes back, and we expected him to just take back his spot as the closer. Well, not so fast. Last opportunity, Pete Fairbanks came in the ninth, and Castillo came in the eighth. So I don't know if this is trying to get kind of the more veteran guy back up to snuff, and let's give him a little bit less of a high leverage situation, and then we'll flip him back again at some point. Or if this is the Pete Fairbanks coming out and nope, this is mine now kind of party. Pete Fairbanks we talked about for a long time, and I know Tampa Bay has talked about Fairbanks being the guy of the future. But is the future now? Is it right now? I guess for this one, I think come back next week, and really I think we'll find out. Jeffrey Springs was the guy that was getting a lot of the opportunity, kind of as a bridge gap between Castillo and Fairbanks. But I think he is pretty much out of the picture at this point. So it's going to be a battle between Castillo and Fairbanks. Now, I don't know. Honestly, I still think Castillo comes back and takes the job and kind of rolls with it. Unless he struggles, then Fairbanks can take it. But this is an absolute mess. And we're talking about messes. Oh, boy. Cincinnati is absolutely disgusting. Amir Garrett was initially the closer, has looked brutal, and he gets in these fights and it's weird and whatever, but he has looked brutal. He is not the closer anymore for sure. Lucas Sims has had one of the weirdest things. every time he gets like a save opportunity, he seems to struggle. But any other time he comes into the game, he looks almost domination. Like yesterday, he went 1.1 and struck out 3 guys, and he's done that like all week this week. So it's really weird. But when he gets an actual save opportunity, he just looks awful. Like he looks lost. And then you got Antoni at the top. He has looked the best out of all of them, but he's starting to blow saves too. So it's like this role of closer is cursed. You know, they come in the seventh and the eighth and the ninth, or the seventh and the eighth, and they look awesome. But all of a sudden, you are like, okay, you're looking great, man. Let's give you the ninth, and they can't do it. Nobody can do it, and it's just an absolute mess in Cincinnati. I own Lucas Sims, and at least I've seen him be good before. I've been pushing and hoping that he would get the spot, but I don't think anybody's got the spot, honestly, at this point. I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have for Cincinnati. If they're pitching well, like if you can get Sims to pitch well, that's great. But man, if you can't lock games down in the ninth, this is the reason closers exist. Honestly, there's just this aura about the ninth that is weird. Okay, I don't want to go too far into that. That's the last one, guys. Hit that sub button. And oh boy, a lot of battles. We'll see you next time.